everybody, it's me, Steve Schnee, and you are watching the CD Junkie. I have some great, exciting news about a new box set that is coming, the most exciting box set of the year. That's right, I'm not talking about the Beatles Anthology box set, although that is very exciting. It is, truly. But there is a box that excites me more than the Beatles Anthology box. And I'm talking about a box set by Split Enz called Encyclopedia 1 and 2. Split Enz are one of the most inventive, creative bands ever, and a lot of people only know them for their new wave things. You know, I Got You, Dirty Creature, 6 Months in a Leaky Boat, things like that, you know, all their 80s hits. But Split Enz was actually around in the early 70s. The band was fronted by Tim Finn, who remained through almost their entire career, except for the final album. And his partner in the early days was another incredible creative musician by the name of Phil Judd. Now, Tim Finn handled vocals, piano, guitar, you know, whatever else he needed, but he was really kind of more the front man. And then Phil Judd was guitar, vocals, and Phil and Tim wrote the songs either together or separately. I'll tell you, Eddie Rayner, the keyboard player, he is the architect of the Split Enz sound. Probably the band members will tell you this. I don't think he gets enough credit. His keyboard playing, and it was just phenomenal. He could sound like a circus underneath this rock sound, or he could sound grounded and emotional while everything on top of it was chaos. It was incredible. He was able to maneuver. I mean, he's completely talented and amazing musician. Other members of this early lineup also included Noel Crombie on percussion. You also had Emlyn Crowther on drums. You had Mike Chun on bass. You had Wally Wilkerson on guitar. Rob Gillies was in there, and Jeff Chun was in there. There were so many great musicians involved. And sometimes, you know, the roles were constantly changing. But throughout most of the band's career, Tim Finn, Eddie Rayner, and Noel Crombie were there. Now, the box Encyclopedia 1 and 2 only covers the early period of the band. And 80s fans may not have been attracted to this early period, but it is really, really creative, groundbreaking even, because it combines, let's say, the songwriting chops of, say, Ray Davies influence, and then adds avant-garde and prog on top of that. But it's like a circus. It's a sound circus. This is a pop music sound circus. Split Enz were one of the most amazing bands. They came from New Zealand. The first couple singles were, I think, like 72, 73, and those were covered on an album called Beginning of the Ends. But that collection of singles wasn't released until later. Their first album was an album called Mental Notes. The album cover was amazing. The art was done by Phil Judd, incredible artist as well as singer-songwriter. And what you find within this album is so hauntingly beautiful and weird and strange and wonderful. Like I said, it's like a circus. It's a beautiful field of daisies, and it's so amazing. If you're not into music that challenges you, now I'm not saying challenges you like, you know, industrial or experimental music, but this is something that you have to listen to. It's almost like following the yellow brick road. You have to start at the beginning and go all the way down in order to reach Oz's castle. And that's kind of what a Split Enz album. Sometimes a song itself, you have to follow and travel this journey. Sometimes the songs are 3 minutes, great little pop gems with kind of weird stuff going on. Sometimes they're long journeys, and it's just absolutely stunning and wonderful. And I've loved this stuff. Now, I got into Split Enz in 1979 when Icy Red came out and the Frenzy album came out. Mental Notes, as I said, was 1975. If you look at the album cover, they all look pretty normal. Wonderful painting by Phil Judd. I said that earlier. And they all look normal, but it's still kind of odd and weird. And if you unfold the album cover, it just reveals a crying baby, and it's hard to describe. You really have to experience this, holding this in your hand. But then Phil Manzanera from Roxy Music really got into the band, and he got them over to England, and he produced second album by them. And that album was called Second Thoughts, which is also included in this box. And what Second Thoughts is they re-recorded probably about half of Mental Notes. And the songs, in my opinion, were much stronger on these versions because, the band had played them live more. Now, there were some changes in the lineup. Wally Wilkerson was gone, and they brought in Rob Gillies. And they also recorded a couple new songs on there that they hadn't released before. And I think there's one or two songs from the early singles they re-recorded. And it is a stunning album. Again, beautiful, twisted journey. Same thing that applies, but I think better. I know a lot of people do like Mental Notes more than Second Thoughts. I'm on the opposite side of that. I love Second Thoughts. Now, one thing I want to mention here is the album Second Thoughts, which was released in Australia and New Zealand. That album was repackaged and titled Mental Notes in the US. Now, when I say repackaged, is Phil Judd altered the artwork. So by this time, the band was wearing these crazy colorful outfits. They had geometric hairstyles, and Phil Judd had gone in, and at this point, he was performing bald. So he made his portrait on the album cover. He made it bald, and Tim Finns, he cut the hair so it sort of represented his geometric hairstyle. Same with the other members. And Wally Wilkerson was no longer with the band, so he sort of painted Robert Gillies over him. So it's a different cover. It's titled Mental Notes, but it's actually the album Second Thoughts, released in the US. Then the third album that's included here is that Beginning of the Ends compilation I was telling you about. There were two compilations out there called Beginning of the Ends. One of them was kind of like a best of this period, and I think that was a UK album, but the Australian New Zealand album called Beginning of the Ends gathered up their pre-album singles. And so that's in this box. So, but you're not just getting the straight albums. What you're doing is you're getting a remastered version of Mental Notes. You're getting a remixed version by Eddie Rayner of Second Thoughts, and then you're getting Beginning of the Ends, which is I think about half of it's remixed and half of it's remastered. And it's brilliant, beautiful, wonderful music. If you love prog, if you love pop, if you love eclectic, eccentric, if you love gorgeous melodies and wonderful voices and talented musicians, this is the box to get. Now, what you're getting with this is it's going to come out on a triple LP. So one LP is going to have the remastered Mental Notes and the remixed Second Thoughts and the remixed and remastered Beginning of the End. It's a 3 LP set, one set. If you buy the CD, you get those 3, plus you get a remastered version of the original mix of Second Thoughts. And then you get a 5th disc, which has 7 unreleased tracks or remix tracks from early periods and live and stuff. So that's actual bonus. Now, retail wise, the 5 CD box set and the 3 LP set are actually going to be the same price. So if you were kind of trying to balance, the amount of music for your money, I would definitely recommend the CD box set. But of course, that's because I'm the CD junkie. But that's not it, though. Super Deluxe Edition has a limited edition Blu-ray coming out that's going to have all I told you. Plus, it's going to have a 5.1 and an Atmos mix of Second Thoughts by none other than Michael Carpenter. I don't want to call him Power Pop legend because he's more than that, but a lot of you who have been following the Power Pop scene know that in the late 90s and early 2000s, Michael Carpenter was putting out some fantastic music. So you have that and all this stuff together. And some people are looking at me saying, what is this guy talking about? Split Enz? Why is this so exciting? If you're asking that question, it's because you've never heard Split Enz, or you've never heard this period during their career. And I'm going to make that easy for you. What I've done is I put together a medley featuring just snippets from each of the albums that are included here. Bear in mind that these songs, these snippets in this medley, are taken from the existing remasters that were done like way back in 2006. These are not the remixes or anything that Eddie Rayner or Michael Carpenter worked on. These are the ones that are already available. I just want you to hear it and get excited about it, and maybe understand why I'm very excited about it. And also, there's a lot of other Split Enz fans out there that are very, very excited about this. So why don't you just sit back, give this a listen, and I will see you on the other side.
Writing letters to my friends, telling them all about Split Enz, watching flowers hit the floor. Why can't they see there's so much more?
Home, sweet home, to each his own, I always say. Martin tries to use his eyes in every way. Walking down the road edged with roses, time stands still forever. Somewhere in the shadows hiding sits an old man laughing. Maybe she'll come along, take me right at my feet. Oh baby, please don't be long. I need all the help I can get. Maybe we'll get along. Ooh la la. Just like a picture book, Daddy's gone away, leaving Mommy in her room with another one on the way. At nights I've heard her screaming through the colored walls. She seems so aloof, that's 90% proof. With a lump in my throat, I grabbed my coat and ran on it again. So I give up the moment and I'll take it as an omen. Got a weakness for the woman and the wine. I lay last night, yeah, late last night. She told me I can get over it. Thank God the storm's passed over. I'll settle down, I guess. Sweet dreams every once in a while. Sweet dreams, but I still think of you with more. Alone, how can I ever repay you? Once you're doing, I still think of you with more. Alone, how can I ever repay you? Once you're doing, I'm going to ask you if you want to be a correspondent. You can mind the tragedy while we are all singing along. Right down, 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 down. No. I'm beginning to wonder if it's time for a change. I'm beginning to wonder if it's time for a change.
Well, that's it. I hope this inspires you to check out Split Enz Encyclopedia 1 and 2. It's a 5 CD or 3 LP box set. It's coming out in November of 2025. Super exciting news. Remember, the medley does not feature the remasters or the remixes. Those are the original mixes from the 2006 CD remasters. I just wanted to play you some music, and I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, to listen to the music. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, to ring that bell for future notifications. And until the next time, remember me. I'm Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie.